Do you remember the beginning of March when the world wasn't falling apart? What happened? It's been only a couple of days, and this is now the longest month in human history. Well, the Patreon requests must go on, and we've gotten to the final one of March 2020. It's Sony Animation's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. What can I really say about this that hasn't been said already? Well, I'm going to give it my best shot. Here's the best animated feature of 2018.
Directed by Bob Persichetti, Peter Ramsey, and Rodney Rothman, this is the first animated movie to star Spider-Man, if you don't count any of those direct-to-video TV show spin-offs. It's also the 7th Spider-Man movie overall, if you don't count those weird theatrical TV movies from the 70s, or the Japanese adaptation. I guess I shouldn't be surprised that Spider-Man is getting so many interpretations. He is one of the most popular superheroes, and if Batman can have so many iterations, why can't Spider-Man? I think this animated film only exists because Sony, after making their deal with Marvel to have Spider-Man in the cinematic universe, still wanted to make money off the franchise. Sure, they can make villain spin-offs like Venom, who will apparently be shoehorned into the MCU somehow, but why not do something completely different? Well, when you hire producers Phil Lord and Chris Miller, you're gonna get a guaranteed unique production. I trusted this project from the beginning with their names attached, but I wasn't sure what direction they'd go in. The subtitle Spider-Verse indicated that it would have multiple dimensions, a common trope in the comics, and something that has hardly been touched upon in live-action superhero films. The art style was 2D, but 3D at the same time. The trailer looked like a comic book leaping from the pages. When December 2018 came, I went to the theater and was thoroughly delighted. For an idea like the multiverse, I'm still surprised that they went full force. I'm glad studios can trust audiences to understand these kinds of things without an over-explanation or knowledge of comic book lore. It's been 30 years since Doc Brown explained alternate realities, and for something like this that's been prevalent in the history of comics, it's shocking that the adaptations have taken this long to get to. But I can only assume it's because the companies were fearing that'd be too complex. Not only does Spider-Verse pull it off, but it also finds a fascinating way to explain it, to have fun with the idea, and it doesn't get too bogged down in theory or the mechanics of it all. There's a machine, something goes wrong, it's science, boom, other Spider-Men. You don't really need more than that. I'm a big fan of the Spider-Man movies so far, and I think Tom Holland is the best version yet. But I'll admit, I'm a bit tired of seeing the same Peter Parker going through the same shit, especially since nothing has topped the 2004 Sam Raimi sequel. Spider-Verse decided to do Miles Morales, which is awesome. The source material has had the other alter ego for quite a while, and we desperately needed a new point of view. The character contains a lot of the Peter Parker-like attributes, but he's also unique in his own right, having some more attitude and humor, and a different style of awkward. The voices are great too, provided by actors who fit perfectly with their roles. I especially love Nicolas Cage as Spider-Noir and John Mulaney as Spider-Ham. The different types of Spider-Men are interesting. I couldn't believe that they were all legit, but it just goes to show that I have a limited knowledge of the medium, and that it's also been extremely underutilized in cinema. The story isn't too different from what you've seen before. It's an origin story with similarities to the previous versions, which are all modern takes on the hero's journey. I guess what makes it more memorable is the tweaks that they make to the typical cliches. For instance, there's a good twist on the mentor character. The surprise villain actually is a surprise. There's an underlying romance, but it isn't a focal point, so there isn't forced chemistry. And the ensemble doesn't feel shoved in, but used just the right amount. Spider-Man has spoiled us in the past with the best villains, and they use the best ones here too, as well as some new ones. This is the first time we've seen the Kingpin in the Spider-Man film, and while he doesn't have a giant role, not nearly as giant as his body anyway, his backstory is cleverly integrated into the story, and for such little screen time, it carries emotional weight. This is how you do a crunch time villain story. The humor is exceptionally well crafted. I can't think of a beat that didn't work, and there's a wide range, which is common in all Lord Miller productions. There's fourth wall jokes, editing gags, nostalgic moments, screwball, Looney Tunes, it's all here and all effective. It makes fun of the character while paying tribute to its history. The thing most people were amazed by was the animation style. I'm not going to be the voice of opposition, I also loved it. I think it's so eye-catching and ahead of its time. I can't believe that this hasn't become the standard for other studios to follow. There was massive outside-the-box thinking when it came to this artwork, and you can see it with the color palette, the detail, and honestly, I feel unworthy to get something like this. There was so much dedication with the characters and the story already, so to get this subversive technique thrown in, it must have added to the difficulty of it all, but made for an even more glorious final product. I can't think of any problems that I have with it. It's like Toy Story. It's a landmark in motion pictures, but also has an incredibly tight screenplay and editing. You can watch the extended version on the Blu-ray with unfinished animation. The extra bits are good, but you can see why most of it was cut, so it made me extra appreciate the final version. It only left me wanting more, which is the best compliment I can give. It's too bad it wasn't nearly as successful as the live-action stuff, but honestly, who cares? They're making sequels and spin-offs anyway, and Sony seems to be proud of its accomplishments and the future. So, there it is. 12 years after open season, Sony Animation Studios finally made their best picture. Thanks to Ryan for this Patreon request, and thanks to all my Patreon supporters. For only $7, you can get your own monthly movie review. Ask me to review anything I haven't already. There's also other perks like blogs, exclusive videos, and early access. You can also follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And thanks so much for watching this video.